Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to pull out the key insights from complex sources, making sense of big topics. And today, well, we're tackling a really intriguing question. What if ancient wisdom, from centuries ago, actually holds clues, maybe even unsettling ones, about the challenges we're facing right now? Things like environmental shifts, global conflicts.
It's a powerful thought, right? That someone hundreds of years back could see patterns emerging, patterns that are maybe only becoming crystal clear to us now, and not just seeing them, but maybe offering a kind of roadmap.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're getting into today. This deep dive focuses on Achyutanand Das. He was this really remarkable 16th century Indian saint, a prophet from Odisha. But he was more than just a seer, wasn't he? A major social reformer, too.
Yeah, definitely. His insights feel incredibly relevant today. We're not just looking at fortune telling here. It's more this profound mix of spiritual insight, ethical philosophy, and really practical guidance. Guidance he believed was vital for getting through turbulent times.
So our mission today is to unpack his life story, yes, but also these pretty stunning prophecies he made, predictions about, well, societal collapse, environmental crises, big global conflicts. But just as important, we want to explore how his core teachings about truth, devotion, action, how they still resonate, how they might be a guide for you navigating this complicated world we're in. What do these old insights mean for us now?
It's a lot to unpack, but really fascinating stuff.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Who is Achyutanand Das? Born sometime in the late 1500s, small village in Odisha, grew up in a devout Vaishnavated family. That's a tradition centered on Vishnu or avatars like Krishna. And this environment, it really fueled his early passion for devotion, for knowledge.
Right. And his education was serious, rooted in the Vedas, the Upanishads, all the ancient scriptures. He was also really influenced by Sant Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, that path of devotion focused on chanting ecstatic love for God. It was huge in Odisha then. And he became one of the Panchasaka, the five great saints of Odisha, him, Balram Das, Jagannath Das, Ananta Das, and Yashwanta Das. That sort of redefined Vaishnavism in the region, made devotion to Krishna much more accessible.
That's really interesting. So for him, religion wasn't just about, rituals or checking boxes. It sounds like it went way beyond that. It was a tool almost to establish truth, justice, ethics everywhere in society.
Exactly. He saw it as fundamental for positive change. He didn't separate devotion, knowledge, and action. Bhakti, that's devotion, gyan knowledge, and karma action. For him, these weren't separate paths. They were totally interconnected. Gyan gives you the understanding, bhakti provides the spiritual drive, and karma translates it all into ethical action in the world. He argued this integrated approach was the key to transforming society and guiding people onto a true path, spiritually and socially.
That integration idea is really powerful. So he wasn't just reflecting, he was laying out a kind of blueprint for the future. He described it unfolding in three stages, right? The end of time, then the great destruction, and finally the beginning of a new age. It's quite the arc.
It really is. So stage one, the end of time, or kalki. He predicted this as a time when basically the whole world, society, everything would be drowning in chaos and crisis, a sign of humanity's standards, moral, material, even mental, just declining sharply, a warning about disorder and misconduct taking over.
Okay, so that description, decline in moral, material, mental standards. How does that specific idea give us a maybe different way to look at today's problems beyond just, listing off crises like climate change or wars? What's the insight there?
Well, I think that's the key point. He's suggesting these external crises, they're symptoms of a deeper internal decay. So economic instability isn't just markets fluctuating. Maybe it reflects a moral failing like greed or systemic inequality. Climate change isn't just emissions. Maybe it's a kind of mental disconnect from our responsibility to the planet. His framework really pushes us past just looking for policy tweaks. It suggests we need fundamental shifts in human consciousness and ethics. That those are the real root causes.
Wow. That's a deep thought. Which takes us to stage two, the great destruction, or Mahavinash. This is where it gets even more intense, more unsettling. He talked about natural disasters, wars, social upheaval, so bad they threaten our very existence. He even had these vivid images like wild animals suddenly attacking cities, farmers just walking away from their fields. What parts of that imagery really jump out at you as feeling eerily familiar today?
The sheer vividness is striking, definitely. It paints this picture of complete breakdown, societal and ecological, the wild animals attacking cities. I mean, that could be a metaphor for nature kind of fighting back against human encroachment, right? Or maybe even things like viruses jumping from animals to humans because we're disrupting habitats. And the farmers abandoning fields, That hits hard. It points directly to, well, a potential collapse of our food systems. We see hints of that already with climate change causing agricultural crises, forcing people to move. It's a vision of basic systems just failing.
It's incredibly bleak.
Yeah.
And yet, even in that darkness, he offered some hope, right?
Yes, absolutely. He prophesied that even amid all that destruction, survival wasn't random. It was for those who stick to the path of truth and righteousness. Which, of course, makes you ask, what choices do we need to make today to be on that path?
Leading us to stage 3, the beginning of a new age. After the destruction, a rebuild. Humanity setting off in a new direction. But survival and getting to this new age depended on internal awareness, truth, righteousness. So how does this new direction connect back to that ethical and spiritual framework he taught?
It brings it all full circle. Survival isn't just about physically making it through. It's ethical. It's spiritual. This new age isn't just hitting restart. It's a fundamental recalibration based on the very principles he championed. When we look at movements today pushing for social justice, environmental action, even ethical technology, it echoes his message. Humanity can steer things differently, but it means truly embedding righteousness, truth, ethics into the foundation, not just as optional extras, building a better future from better values.
Okay, let's dig into some of those really specific omens he mentioned. One of the most memorable is 2 suns in the sky. Like literally appearing as if 2 suns had risen. How on earth do we interpret something that dramatic today? Especially with climate change.
It's such a powerful image, isn't it? Suggests a fundamental disruption of the natural order.
One way to think about it, yeah, is definitely drastic atmospheric changes, global warming, intense pollution, greenhouse gases. Could they cause such extreme heat? Or maybe weird atmospheric effects like a super intense hazy sun, or visual tricks from particles in the air that it feels like the sun's intensity is doubled? It speaks to this profound imbalance, the world just not working the way it's supposed to.
And we've certainly seen signs pointing towards that imbalance, haven't we? Record heat globally in recent years, ice melting faster than ever, crazy heat waves everywhere. These are all signals that Earth's climate is changing in really big, unprecedented ways. Ways that could literally change how the sky looks. Then there's that other really specific one. Water, up to the 22nd step of Jagannath Temple. Targeting such a revered cultural site. What does that specificity, the 22nd step, add to the warning?
It makes it terrifyingly concrete, doesn't it? Instead of just flooding, it's this specific landmark, almost underwater. It works as this powerful metaphor for major sea level rise globally, threatening cultural heritage, religious sites, making them inaccessible. And the science backs this up, unfortunately. Melting ice sheets, oceans expanding as they warm. It's happening. Scientists say sea levels rose maybe 15, 20 centimeters last century. Projections for this century, up to a meter, maybe more. We're already seeing more floods in India's coastal areas, especially Odisha, right where the temple is.
It really drives home that nothing, no matter how sacred or historic, is necessarily safe from these huge environmental shifts. A local prophecy, but with truly global resonance, makes you think about what we could lose.
So we've got cosmic signs, rising waters. What about the very basics of life? Food. He also predicted a time of farmers abandoning fields. How does that fit into his bigger picture of the Great Destruction?
Well, that one's chilling because it points to a crisis at the absolute foundation of civilization, farmers giving up. That's an omen of severe agricultural collapse, likely triggered by environmental stuff, droughts, water scarcity, all amplified by climate change. It represents a breakdown of the systems that feed us. If people can't grow food, society just unravels. And we see echoes of this now. Farmer communities, particularly in places like India, are struggling hugely. Droughts, water shortages, erratic weather. It makes traditional farming incredibly difficult, unsustainable sometimes. These centuries-old warnings feel remarkably current.
Okay, shifting gears slightly from the environment. Achyutanand Das also spoke about conflict, great wars, mahayud, and mass slaughter. He described conflict spreading globally, not just staying local, impacting life, culture, human rights. But what's really insightful, I think, is that he pointed to political and economic instability as key drivers, not just military stuff. How does that foresight match up with today's global conflicts?
That's a really sharp observation he made. He wasn't just seeing soldiers in battles. His idea of mahayud seems to capture this broader landscape of tension we see now. It's not only the tragic wars like in the Middle East or Ukraine, horrific as they are, it's also the fallout from political turmoil worldwide, economic crises, soaring national debt, supply chain chaos. He seemed to grasp that these non-military pressures, think trade wars, nuclear proliferation risks, even cyber warfare, they all fuel instability. They create a new kind of global conflict landscape. His insights feel spot on there.
Yeah, it's an unsettlingly accurate picture of how interconnected and messy modern conflict is, which then brings us back to his condition for survival. Only those following the path of truth and righteousness would make it through these conflicts. In a world facing huge human rights issues, how do we actually apply that advice today? Truth and righteousness. What does that look like in practice?
I think it elevates it beyond just personal piety. It becomes a kind of moral imperative for society. When you look at human rights crises now, attacks on minorities, threats to women's rights, civilian suffering in wars, the inequalities driven by environmental damage, Achyutananda's message feels like a direct call to action, a commitment to justice, equality, dignity for everyone. It means actively fighting disinformation, standing up for human rights, building systems that actually reflect those values. It's not just about being a good person in isolation. It's about collective responsibility to reshape things based on truth and justice.
His teachings really do bridge the personal and the societal, which highlights his role as a social reformer, not just a prophet. He was actively trying to improve his own time. He strongly opposed superstitions, blind faith, empty rituals. Why was that so important to him? What specific problems was he tackling?
He saw those things as actively harmful, not just, pointless, but corrosive. They often propped up the caste system, enabled exploitation, and stopped people from thinking critically. For him, real religion was about seeking truth, serving others, cultivating inner goodness, not just outward shows. So when he spoke out against injustice, inequality, division, he was directly challenging the rigid social structures and dogma of his day. And that message, well, it still hits home today, doesn't it?
It really does. And he promoted that powerful combination we talked about, bhakti, gyan, and karma. He gives a more concrete sense of how he saw those working together in someone's daily life, not just theory, but action.
Sure. So for Achyutananda, bhakti, that true devotion, wasn't just about your private connection with God. It was the motivation to fulfill your social duties, to actively do good. So your jnana, your knowledge, helps you understand what needs doing in society. Your bhakti makes you want to do it. And your karma, that's putting it all into practice through honest, truthful, ethical actions every day. Could be helping a neighbor, speaking against unfairness, doing your job with integrity. It's faith shown through service and right action, not just prayer alone.
It's a very grounded, holistic view. And he was also a critic of casteism, showy religiosity, the inequalities back then. He pinpointed education as the main tool for guiding society towards truth. Why education specifically?
Because education, for him, was about enlightenment, freeing the mind. It was the way to help people break free from blindly following harmful traditions, superstitions, prejudices that kept inequality going. He really worked to wake people up from all parts of society, urging them to question things, to seek truth through understanding. His teachings aimed to build unity, brotherhood, to tackle social evils from the root. He stressed that true religion had to include everyone's well-being and rights, not just be about saving your own soul. It was about creating an informed, united society that could tell right from wrong.
A really visionary approach, integrating personal growth with societal change. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's pull it all together. Achyutananda Das's prophecies, his social reform ideas, they're centuries old, but they feel incredibly relevant to our challenges now. Environmental crises, global conflicts, social inequalities, his insights speak directly to them, offering warnings, yes, but also a potential path forward.
Yeah, it's striking how the themes he picked out, moral decline, humans impacting nature, complex global conflicts, aren't just history. There are headlines. And his framework gives us a lens to look beyond the surface symptoms, to think about the deeper causes.
Exactly. Which leads us to our final thought question for you listening. If this ancient wisdom offers such clear warnings, and also this integrated path forward, truth, righteousness, knowledge, action, what's your role in choosing that path? Not just for your own sake, but maybe for our collective future. What will you do with the insights from this deep dive, now that you're informed? How might you help shape that new age he talked about?
The choices we make now, individually, collectively, how we live, learn, act, they really could shape what comes next.
Definitely something profound to think about. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We hope this journey into Achyutananda Das's world has given you some valuable perspectives. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking that path of truth.